Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tips. My name is Julian, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Wild. We're continuing that series of videos talking about each individual NHL team. We're going to be talking about Minnesota's players and if I think you should draft each individual guy or not. Now, in the coming days, I'm going to be accelerating the pace at which I release these videos, guys, because I know the draft is probably coming up real soon for most of you. I'm going to try to get them all done before the draft weekend, which is before the season starts on the 12th. So that draft weekend, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, those days that you guys are probably going to be drafting a lot, I'm going to make sure to get all my videos out before then. I'm going to get out all my team videos out, and I'm also going to put out top 100 forwards and top 50 defense out before then as well. I'll see if I can fit in another couple as well, but that's going to be a lot of videos for me to make. So just stay tuned, guys, and enjoy the content. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And without further ado, let's jump right into the Minnesota Wild's projected lines. Minnesota's training camp has officially opened, and these are the lines that it's looking like, and I actually like them a lot. Right now, it's looking like the top line is going to be Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Zuccarello. Second line, Boldy, Rossi, and Fiala. Nice, young, talented line. And third line, Greenway, Hartman, and Foligno. On D, we got Brodin, Dumba, Goligoski, Spurgeon, Kulikov, Merrill, and in nets, we got Talbot and Kahkonen. So the biggest thing is that Eriksson Ek is finally not going to be playing on a third line with Greenway and Foligno. That really increases his value because he's actually a very, very good center. He's a good two-way guy. He's good offensively, defensively. He's good all around the ice. And he was really the only decent center Minnesota had last year. Yeah, Bonino was decent as well, but he's not on the team anymore. So Eriksson Ek playing with Kaprizov and Zuccarello can really increase Kaprizov's value. And that's why I have Kaprizov as someone you absolutely should draft at his ADP. I like him a lot. I actually have him at 26th overall. So him being drafted around 30th, he gets pretty good value in my opinion. Look for him to just possibly just get unlocked this year and go way over a point per game. Next is Cam Talbot, and I like Cam Talbot this year in fantasy. He's one of my favorite goalies to draft because Minnesota showed a lot of preference to him over Kahkonen last year. And I mean, Kahkonen's a good young goalie, and I'm not really sure why they were doing that, but Talbot played very, very well last year, and Minnesota doesn't have exactly the hardest division in the world. They're going to be one of the top teams in the division, probably number 2 or number 3 in the division. And they're going to win a lot of games. So Talbot's definitely got a lot of value. He's going to start probably 75% of the games. Next is Jared Spurgeon, and he's going to probably be top power play for Minnesota last year. Yeah, he didn't produce that much last year, but I'm going to attribute that to bad luck. I think Spurgeon can go ahead and easily get 45, 50 points a season, which is pretty good for his ADP. Next is Kevin Fiala, and last year he had 40 points in 50 games, which was on pace for a 66-point season, which is pretty freaking good. And yeah, he's a streaky guy, right? He has very cold stretches, very hot stretches, but he's very talented. And I really like Fiala as a player. Last year, his line mates, not the best in the world, right? This year, if Boldy and Rossi stick as his line mates, they're super talented young players, and I think Fiala will be bolstered from that. On top of that, Fiala should continue to get top power play time with Kaprizov, with Zuccarello. I think he's going to do pretty well this year. Next is Matt Dumba, who only had 21 points in 51 games last year, and he's been pretty bad, actually, point-wise, for the past couple of years. He didn't get a lot of power play time last year because Spurgeon was kind of taking all that top power play time. Fine. If suddenly this year he starts getting some top power play time with Kaprizov and Fiala, maybe he has a little bit of value, but I don't really see that happening, so I'm staying away from Matt Dumba. Next is Kaapo Kahkonen, and he's a fantastic goalie. I really like Kahkonen as a player, as a goalie. I don't necessarily see him having the most value this year. He's going relatively early when you can still draft a starting goalie at that range. Not the best starting goalie, like you can get a Gibson or a Cal Peterson, but Kahkonen, I don't see starting more than like a third of the games in Minnesota. They had no problem giving almost every single start to Talbot last year. He even got some back-to-backs, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, so I don't necessarily love Kahkonen this year, and I'm avoiding him in drafts. Next is Joel Eriksson Ek, and he's going insanely late in drafts, which could be an absolute steal. Like, it's great value considering he's probably going to play this year with Zuccarello and Kaprizov. Like, that's insane value. Unfortunately, he is a center and he's locked in as center, but if you want some depth really late in the draft, Eriksson Ek could be an absolute steal this year because, yeah, last year he had 30 points in 56 games, which is okay, but those numbers will go way up if he starts playing on that top line. Next is Goligoski, and I don't really like Goligoski this year. I don't really hate Goligoski this year either. I think he's probably going to get some second power play time alongside Dumba. I'm not drafting Goligoski, but he's the kind of guy who goes on like really hot streaks. So if he starts hitting one of his really hot streaks, he's someone that you could pick up at some point when that is happening. Next is Matt Zuccarello, and he is being slept on. And I mean hardcore slept on. He's not being drafted in 90% of leagues, and his ADP is so low on Yahoo that they're not even tracking it right now. Last year, he had 35 points in 42 games, which is pretty close to a point per game pace, and that was playing with centerman Victor Rask. Okay, this year, he's probably going to have Eriksson Ek or maybe even Marco Rossi as the top line center, a lot, and I mean a lot better quality than Victor Rask. This guy was 55th in the league last year in terms of points per game. He did miss some time, that's why I'm talking points per game. And he's playing with Kirill Kaprizov, who's going to just do better and better every year. I think Zuccarello is an absolute steal, considering he's not being drafted in the majority of rounds. You can get him in the last round of the draft, or you could probably get him after your draft and just pick this guy up. Next are Marco Rossi and Matt Boldy. They're both rookies, and they should both crack the lineup this year. Like I showed you earlier in the lines, they're probably going to play with Fiala. That's what it looks like right now. If they do crack the lineup and crack one of the top two lines, suddenly they have some fantasy relevance, right? And I think Rossi is probably a little bit more than Boldy, considering that Minnesota's so weak down the middle. Rossi has a much better chance of cracking those top two lines. But I think that they have a chance, right? I'm not necessarily drafting these guys, but I'm keeping a very close eye on them and seeing if they do crack those top two lines and seeing how they do. If Rossi starts performing right away, I'm picking this guy up. And last but not least are Marcus Foligno and Jordan Greenway. Last year, they formed the third line along with Joel Eriksson Ek. If Joel Eriksson Ek suddenly is the top line center and is no longer with these guys have very little value. Eriksson Ek really brought up these guys' value. He got these guys to produce decently offensively. But if these guys are going to be playing with Ryan Hartman, I'm not high on them this year, and I don't think they should be drafted in any format. And that's it, guys. You've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.